With divorce rates hovering around 50%, I think it's important that we start having a conversation about creating relationships and marriages that really work. And I think one of the ways that we can minimize the divorce rate is to be more conscious, be more aware when we enter into relationships. And unfortunately, as men, most of us, we don't spend a lot of time understanding what we really need in order for a relationship to work. Most of us are more concerned with external things like how she looks, what kind of car does she drive, what's her job status, things like that. And those aren't the things that will create a great relationship. So I thought I'd share a couple of things, some insights, to assist you in possibly picking the right mate for yourself. And I think if we do this, if we apply these things to our lives, I think it can help minimize or eliminate a lot of the high divorce rates that, again, we're currently seeing in our society. So the first thing I think that we have to do in terms of choosing a mate is, first and foremost, we have to listen to what Shakespeare said. And Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true." Which means to me that as men, we must first recognize any emotional and psychological issues that we haven't dealt with that's going to keep us from creating a great relationship. You see, it's easy to always focus on the external things, the people in our lives, but as men, we have to be courageous enough to start looking within our own hearts to see if there's some hurt there that may keep us from creating a relationship that really works. And I know that this terrifies most men, but it is the foundation of all great relationships. It's to have a great relationship with yourself. That is the foundation of any relationship. Any good marriage is a solid sense of self, a solid knowing and understanding of who we are as men individually. That's the first thing. The next thing I think we have to do as men, if we want to create a relationship that really works, is we have to create a list of values that are really important to us that we don't deviate from. Most of us have never really taken the time to consider what our true personal values are. So it's important that you take the time and make a list of the things that are really important to you. What are the things that you have strong feelings about, beliefs about? For example, what are your beliefs around money? What are your beliefs and values around sex? How about religion? How about ambition? These are just a few of the values that we must have an understanding of if we're going to try to find those things in a mate. So for example, if I happen to have a high sex drive, then that's a high value for me. So the person that I need to be in a relationship with should also have a high sex drive. If not, it's going to cause conflict in a relationship. But if we'll approach this up front, we can minimize a lot of the pain in a relationship. When it comes to money, if I'm a spender and that's just my value and I don't know how to save money, and then I find someone who's the complete opposite, it's going to be difficult for me to create a relationship that really works. And religion. If I happen to be a very religious person and believe that I'm supposed to go to church every Sunday, and I enter into a relationship with a person that doesn't like to go to church at all, that could cause some conflict. If I'm ambitious and I love to dream and I want to set high goals for myself, why would I enter into a relationship with someone that wants to just follow the status quo? It is important that each of us create our own personal list of values. Once we create that list of values, we make sure, or we should make sure, that the person that we enter into a relationship with share those same values. So that's the second thing we need to do. And then the third thing we need to do in terms of forming relationships is to come up with a minimum of 3 non-negotiables. And this is extremely important because everyone has some things that they feel really strongly about and they shouldn't compromise. So you have to decide what are at least 3 things that you cannot and will not compromise. For example, a non-negotiable for me is smoking. I personally would never date someone who smokes. I don't smoke. I prefer not to be, or I choose not to be in a relationship with someone who smokes. So that's a non-negotiable for me. And so the question becomes, what's non-negotiable for you? What are some things that you refuse to compromise? Because if you enter into a relationship and you have some non-negotiables that you aren't aware of, and then that person that shows up in your life breaks those non-negotiables for you, you're setting yourself up for unhappiness. You're going to be miserable because just because she's extremely attractive, you have great sex, but yet you have a non-negotiable saying that you want the person to be monogamous. If the person isn't monogamous, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be shattered. So what we have to do is we have to establish up front a minimum of 3 non-negotiables. Make sure that we don't compromise those. And that is the foundation for creating great relationships. Those 3 primary things. Number 1, be true to yourself. Number 2, know your values. And number 3, know the things that you're unwilling to compromise.